Hi, good day, everyone. Today with me, I have Shreyas Slater Chityala, the managing partner of Eleveight and Vedas Group Asia. And we are going to talk about ToneTag and its expansion into the Southeast Asia market. Shreyas, you have been involved with ToneTag for a series of rounds as an investor. So take us a little bit about how you are involved with ToneTag and what has the journey been like.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, ToneTag is one of the most exciting businesses that we have been involved with. We have now been part of the journey for over 8 years. It originally began because we saw a novel component of the vision of the founder, Kumar Abhishek, to be able to bring financial inclusion and bring participation in the financial system to everyone, as we say, inverting the pyramid. And we saw a parallel, a similarity with M-Pesa in Kenya to what ToneTag was doing in India, with being able to conduct commerce on mobile, whereas M-Pesa was not able to initially connect bank accounts. You had to load a device with value. ToneTag allowed this to be done through the old, if you remember, people would have to remember there was a time before we had smartphones, before the iPhone. So much of the emerging world was still working on the old Nokia devices and playing the snake game. What has happened over time is that that's actually now been applied using a soundwave protocol as a way to, just like a QR code as a particular type of secure or encrypted signature. So does each phone has a sound profile that is unique to that device, and it can also communicate information through sound waves. So that was benefited by a couple of things that happened in India. And part of all of this is, I think, the biggest thing as an investor. So we've invested through Vedas, our family office. We've invested through Eleveight, our venture firm, and through we've also created SPVs or vehicles for other people to participate. But the biggest thing as an investor is the education process for how do you communicate the value proposition, but also the things that have been tailwinds for the company. That's been an interesting journey throughout my career in really the importance of that. So some of the things that benefited ToneTag was, one, the creation of UPI in India, the Unified Payments Interface, probably the most successful government program to be able to get everyone connected through bank accounts. The second thing was to be able to get most of the people in India to be able to open an account through a post office. So almost overnight, you had 250, 300 million people be able to get banked. And then the third aspect of that was to be able to get people identified through Aadhaar, which digital ID. So all of these factors acted as tailwinds. And ToneTag, through its evolution, found that with these elements, as well as the importance of contactless payments through COVID, became much more prevalent. And when we find product market fit in a business and kind of see the trajectory in a parallel to other businesses that we worked with before, PayPal, Stripe, etc., we get far more active. And so while we had conviction early on, I think it really took off in the last 3 years because you saw adoption scale based on these three tailwinds. And ToneTag was able to find that it can really improve the reliability. So oftentimes you may go to a checkout terminal and you want to pay for a coffee, you want to pay for a restaurant meal, the device isn't working or it doesn't go through. That's because it has an internet connection that may be down. The device may have an issue. But with ToneTag, it almost never happens, over 99.9% success rate. So when you invest and when you bring other people on, you have to educate about some of these aspects of this. Because what are the points of friction? What are the differentiators? Because once you swipe, most people don't know, the 50, 100 different companies that act in the back, the issuer, the acquirer, the banks associated, the gateways, the processors, all of these things. So it's also different in each country. So oftentimes, we get asked, so how is it different to a Venmo, or how is it different to a PayPal, or in India, of course, Paytm, PhonePe are the large ones. So a role that we've played in that is to be able to communicate. Okay, so what is different, and where does it fit into the ecosystem, and then why is that relevant? Because this is really the first time that you see a company that acts as a relationship as both the issuer and the acquirer. So the company ToneTag knows who you are as a individual, and the merchant also knows, if you've shopped before, and then having connectivity to facilitate direct connection between buyer and seller is a unique aspect, and to be able to do that in a more reliable manner. So one of the roles we've played is this education process on one, in terms of when you go to the investor base, because one of our goals is to really bring ToneTag to other markets.
Yeah.
Is then you have to educate people on, okay, how is this relevant in these markets? And then, I think part of the way we'll say we've helped the company is all of this, especially when it comes to financial systems, highly regulated businesses. It is not easy to be compliant and go through all of the regulatory hurdles and challenges it takes to go to actually enable any of this. So part of it is also, we talked in the past episodes about crypto and blockchain, that is actually one of the capabilities. But going to an audience where there's still a lot of transactions that are happening in the traditional financial system, you can't talk about blockchain. You have to focus on how existing payment peer to peer, because the blockchain at point of sale is coming in soon, but the existing methods, MasterCard, Visa, direct bank connections, that's still the existing methodology, and that's what people are familiar with. So if we look at how do we convey the ToneTag value proposition, we have to factor in all of these elements. And then when you go to a bank, or go to a telco operator, or go to any type of a partner, they have to figure out, okay, how does this fit, and how is it relevant for me? And of course, the team is visionary. They are the ones that they saw this both in terms of democratization of finance, as well as being able to utilize some of these features and capabilities of soundwave-based payments. Part of that, and then where we help, is, okay, how does it make sense to an investor? How does it make sense to a client or a partner?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where what we were talking previously, the educational content that Vedas Asia is building comes in, because you get those pointers out, you have those conversations, and then you grow that interest across the region and through the SPV vehicles as well. Uh, but this is not, Shreyas, how a usual GPLP relationship works, right? That's not in traditional finance. That's not what we are taught. So, how did, as EIP, or as Vedas Family Office, how did you zero in on this kind of an approach? And do you actually see benefits of this kind of an involvement? Because obviously, as a family office, generally the construct is smaller. It's not a very resource intensive setup that a family office has. There are only limited number of trusted people who form that family office. Right. So how do those dynamics work out?
So I think it's been an evolution in our own journey as well, and also goes to what we believe our strengths are, which is the value add from the aspect of clients' capital strategy. So when we began our journey, we were doing investing family capital. Then the Eleveight came about because there were a few families that became interested and wanted to create a venture firm structure out of that. We've done traditional venture structures. We have a few different funds. The idea of investing in 20 or 30 businesses and do it through a traditional venture model became challenging, but also it became difficult to split the time, because when you see things that work well, you really want to back those more, and that's not traditionally how a venture firm works.
Yeah.
So we decided, after seeing, making over 20 investments, we were able to find the 4 or 5 that we got either involved early, or more importantly, we got to know the founders well over time. And like any, especially in family office, in business relationships, the quality of the relationship and the trust factor is the most important thing. So the trust to be able to work with founders and partners that you have respect and that you can engage. Is there's going to be ups and downs, but if you have that level of trust and quality relation, that's the main driver. And so we've gone through a few different cycles over the last 15 years. So when we had situations where companies needed more help, either because there was a founder issue, a health issue, or there was a change in business model, we decided to get more involved where we had an existing relationship with the founders and the other businesses. And not just that, there's also other companies where we had high conviction. We were the first outside capital, and the ability to work with them and be part of, going from 460,000 revenue to 50 million revenue, and being involved in the early days and actually saying, okay, we back you, and we can help you with the hiring of people. If you need a backstop when you're working with a government department, because one of the last things that a government or a large institution wants to do is work with a company that's not going to be solvent. So doing these things and then seeing, one, the value of taking something from point A to point B monetarily is of course a reward, but then also being part of the journey to actually see the difference that you've made in that company and the people involved. There's a lot of fulfillment that comes with that. To answer your question again, is a risk reward approach where if you're involved with a business that you know well, where you've worked with the founders. Typically, we've known founders for 6-7 years before we get deeply involved with them. So that was the case with a few companies: ToneTag, Begin, Lightray. These are all businesses that we work with closely. So if you do that, then you also bring the right set of capital partners along with you. So the trust is not just with the companies and founders, but also on the co-investors and the people that you work alongside. So it's not traditional, but one, I think we enjoy it more. It does involve a lot more work. On the road a lot, and there's Zoom, it's still very much a face-to-face business. But I think it gives greater control of the outcome. It also gives more flexibility for people, the co-investors that participate, because they know what they're getting into. And typically, we don't want to get into things where we don't see an indefinite pathway to liquidity. So if you can construct a vehicle or work in tandem with founding team to allow people that want an exit for various reasons to do that, then I think it's a win-win on all sides. So ultimately, it does involve a bit more work, the strength of relationship, but I think not just the financial outcome, I think the flexibilities and the fun along the way is definitely more, makes that worthwhile.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shreyas. Thank you for your time. And we hope to see great things coming for ToneTag in the period ahead.
Thank you, Nishtha.